Well, I'm really glad you joined us on the stream, and this feature is going to be here from now on. And if it's not me talking to somebody you want to hear, what's on their mind or their heart, it'll be my son Randy or another one of my staff. But it's going to be coming steady, and I'm going to do it as often as I can. I'm talking to Ken Harrison, who is the new head of Promise Keepers. And boy, Coach McCartney and I guess about as close as you can get. And especially when you consider the coach asked to come on our program, Life Today, and share his own crisis with his wife sitting by him. And I'm telling you, the Promise Keepers was one of the greatest moves of God in my lifetime, and I'm over 70. And I was the closing speaker at the big Stand in the Gap in Washington when way over 1 million men gathered. Well, Ken Harrison is the new head, the president of it, the CEO, whatever you want to give them a title. You can tell us the title in a moment. But I want you to know there's an event this week he's going to tell you about. But Ken, welcome to the stream. It's just good to have you with us.
Thanks. It's always good to be with you, James.
All right, I got to ask you, you were a policeman in Los Angeles, and you were decorated, and then you got too good at being a policeman. They actually looked like they were going to push you back for doing the job too well. But what you're seeing happen to these great, courageous people who are risking their life every day to protect me and my family, to really walk into hell sometimes for a true heavenly cause. What do you think about what's happening to them right now?
You know, it's like the same spiritual battle that we're in. I mean, a policeman, and my situation was I was a copper in Compton, Watts area of South Central Los Angeles during the Rodney King stuff. And I was one of the most highly decorated policemen at the time. And after Rodney King, they went looking for heads to chop off. And so we see that happening across the whole country right now. When a policeman comes into a situation, especially in a high crime area, it's constant, it's all day, it's every day, and you have very little information, you have mass chaos, and you have to make decisions right now, all the time that affect people's lives. And what we want to do as a culture now is to grab cops and say, oh, you said one wrong thing or you did one wrong thing, let's destroy your life now. And it's an impossible task that we put our policemen through. And the number one thing that's hurting our cops is the amount of stress they go through. And now you add to that the fact that our culture is turning on them. And we're destroying these guys' lives. And so my heart breaks for our police officers, but that's the same thing we do in the church, isn't it, James? I mean, that's what you and I have talked about. You know, you've become a spiritual father to me. I look up to you with great respect, and we talk all the time. And you and I have talked about the fact that the church does the same thing. We destroy people. We're so utterly critical of people, and we have people out there who are leading movements in God's name, doing things, making decisions, talking all the time, and they say one wrong word and we go and we start chopping their heads off. I think our whole culture, from the church to America, needs to start remembering that we're all sinners. We're just beggars telling other beggars where we found bread. And we need to start exercising the grace that Christ gave us to everybody else, understanding we're all fallible, doing the best that we can. We hold people to a high standard, but we also give great grace and forgiveness when they screw up.
You know, I've talked about the Ezekiel and the dry bones, and I know you've heard me say that he walked up on a valley of dry bones scattered, and God asked, can they live? And what I see today when I look at it is I see a valley of scattered body parts. It's like hands, arms, legs, feet, eyes, whatever it is that disturbed somebody in the body of Christ, the body of believers, the church, that they disagree with. We don't just have a discussion, a meaningful honing session or shaping of the clay in the master's hands. We amputate that body part because we disagree. We try to destroy them. If we either divorce or destroy, and we scatter them. And Ravi Zacharias said to me not long before he died, one of the last strong things he said when he was strong enough to speak, he said, if the church doesn't stop dividing over different points of view and making an idol out of their point of view, and then separating from those parts, the church is never going to make the impact that God has left us here to make, that Jesus commissioned us to make. And I know this is what I've seen in you, Ken, when you talked about being a kingdom servant. You understood that the greatest in the kingdom is truly servant. And we really need to correct one another like the father of the prodigal did. He was so patient, so long-suffering, while this kid did everything wrong until he came to his senses, and then he came back into the presence of the Father filled with love. Too often the church doesn't show that redemptive love. Now with Promise Keepers, from the moment when I knew McCartney, this is what was on his heart. For fathers to be the center of the spiritual influence, the positive, like the Father in heaven influence in their family. And that is basically, in so many ways, what Coach saw, what Promise Keepers did, and it's what you have come in to see restored and perhaps go to an even higher level. So tell us what your vision and hope is for Promise Keepers, and tell us about the event that starts this Friday and Saturday that everyone can be a part of. We were going to be in the AT&T Stadium, what we call Cowboy Stadium. You know, Cowboys used to win football games, if you don't know who they were. We have this great stadium, though, and it was going to be filled this week, but now it's got to be an online situation overall. So tell us about it, Ken, and tell us your vision and your heart.
Oh, thank you. We have got to call men back to their identity in Jesus Christ. We've got to call the men back. Just like you just said, the Promise Keepers, with the prodigal son's father is Christ. The prodigal son is a believer who has spit in the face of his father, insulted him, gone away. And yet, despite all that, when he comes to his senses and he repents and turns towards his father comes running to him, picks him up in his arms and says, "Kill the fattened calf, my son's come home." We have an enemy, Satan, that's looking to tell us you screwed up, you're not good enough. And by the way, he has lots of his minions, some of them Christians, who are willing to voice those things as well, what we're talking about now. There will be 127 people today who will commit suicide in America. Of those people, 80% will be middle-aged men. 80%, because they've lost their identity, because they don't feel grace, and because there's too many other people who are willing to point the finger at them and say, you screwed up, you're worthless. So Promise Keepers, we want to do two things. We want to say, hey, here's God's standard, and it's incredibly high to be a disciple, but also here's his grace, and it's incredibly high. Your salvation is free. It came from him. You did nothing to get it. He did it all on the cross for you. Now that you're saved, though, let's all start marching this way, and we're going to fail, and we pick each other up as we go. That's the message of the Promise Keepers event. And we have, James, as you know, the greatest speakers. I mean, it's an unbelievable all-star lineup, not just the speakers, but the music of Danny Goki and Michael W. Smith. The talent is unbelievable. Phil Wickham. And so you can get on that. It's free. Just go to promisekeepersevent.com and just register. It's just your name, your email, so that you can get the link to live stream it from your computer. We also have hundreds of churches across the country and the world that are showing a simulcast that you can gather wherever you can legally gather. And when we've got several million people in India watching this, it's being translated into Hindi. We've got people all over Latin America. It's being translated into Spanish, and we have English. So just promisekeepersevent.com, and it's right there. Hit the link. It'll take you 20 seconds.
Well, many of my closest friends, some of them lifetime friends, some of them you might even call some of my spiritual children, because they were impacted by our ministry and blessed. And I just have such great appreciation and respect for them. And I'm really excited about the messages. I've been able to be blessed to watch and to see what's going on. I know you and I will probably be talking about the messages even next week. We may be right back here on the stream talking about what God said and what God did, and giving our impressions and trying to, let's say, put greater emphasis on the importance of what He shared. And so repeat again, where do they go so they can write it down and know exactly where they're going? They can watch it on their iPad, I'm sure on their mobile devices, but they can certainly get it on the laptop. Are they able to put this up on Apple TV to get it on the screen, or somewhere they can put it up where they could watch it on the big screen in their home?
Yeah, that's the great advantage to this. So promisekeepersevent.com, you can register. It'll also be across Facebook Live on millions and millions of different feeds that will be there. But if you get the link and register, then you'll be able to just stick it on your Apple TV and put it on your screen. And we are encouraging guys. I know we have this COVID situation that's driven us out of AT&T Stadium, but in as much as you can, have friends come over, have a barbecue, and for crying out loud, guys, bring your teenage sons and have them watch this, and have them invite their friends, especially the ones who don't have dads in the home, because we're going to talk about real issues. This is not going to be a religious event. We're not calling people to be more moral or more religious, or we're not giving them little tips on how to be a better man. We're telling them about the grace of Jesus Christ. We have powerful speakers that are going to hit issues that men need to talk about, and you know what those are. Men talking to men about being men. And so this is not the kind of thing you're ever going to hear in church, but it's going to be grace-filled, no finger pointing, but it's us grabbing each other and going, stop looking at porn. Stop doing that garbage. Let's get up to a higher standard of being the men of God.
All right, what time does it start? It's on Friday night. Let's say, well, I'm Central Time. Can you tell me what time it would start Central? You're
6
Mountain
o'clock
Time where you are.
Central. Yeah. Well, I'm up here in God's country, James. You're down
You
there.
know, you're closer to God. I understand all that stuff.
And when we talk next week, I'll have better lighting because I'll be in a studio.
Okay.
I'm sorry for the reflection from my forehead. But no, it's at 6 o'clock Central Time on Friday. And if you're late, that's okay, because you can start the live stream whenever you want. So once it starts at 6 Central, if you come in at 6:15 and hit the link, it'll start fresh for you. So 6 o'clock is when you can start watching it. And it will be available, by the way, for the next few months. And so it's not like if you miss it, you're out. We would love.
What about the next day?
Because to watching it together.
It goes Saturday too, right?
Yeah. So it's Friday night for 3 hours. I'm telling you, those 3 hours are so amazing. I've seen the whole thing. It is really something. You're going to want to watch the whole thing. And then Saturday, it'll be 4 hours. And I think it starts at 9 Central on Saturday. I could be wrong, but it's on the website.
All right. All that is on the website. Say the website they're going to one more time.
PromiseKeepersEvent.com.
All right. And that would be the same address to go on Facebook to see it, correct? Or does that link tell you how to get the Facebook link?
Yeah. So if you go to Facebook Live, just hit Promise Keepers and it'll say live events, hit live events, and it'll be right there. Boom. And you'll be on. And then we're also encouraging you, hey, if you're watching it live and you like what you see, put it live on your event, because right now we have a few million men watching this, women will be watching it too. So people, let's make it tens of millions, because what we're talking about is so important. And we're doing this to start a revival. We're not doing this to have an event. We're not doing this to have a nice little thing that we do. We want to start a revival across the world that stops sex trafficking, that stops abortion. Hey, let's go. We are the men of God. We're going to get going together. And then we're going to announce on Saturday our new app, which we have developed, which is excellent. It's all about discipleship and discipling others, so that you don't leave this event on Saturday going, wow, that was amazing, but now what? This time, Promise Keepers is giving you the now what.
I'll just say to all of you who are watching right now on the stream, your family can be transformed by the power of God. I grew up fatherless. My mother was raped at 40 and conceived me and was able to have me because the doctor wouldn't abort me. But think about this. Had 3 children. One of them's in heaven. We said goodbye to her at 40, left 3 teenage kids. We have those 3 children that love Jesus with all their heart. Their children love Jesus. We have 11 grandchildren. 10 of them will be married after the end of this week, 10 of them. And then we now have, on our way to having 9 great-grandchildren, already have 7, but in a few months we'll have 9. That's 20 grandchildren and great-grandchildren, because God became Father. They know that Father. Our children and grandchildren love their dads, but they saw this Father in their dads and fell in love with the Father. That's what Promise Keepers is about. Ken, God bless you. I love you, man. Thank you for being a kingdom servant.
Hey, James, can I add one thing?
Yes, sir.
We idolize people in the church. I want you to hear what James just said. And I don't want you to say, well, that's the great James Robison. I want you to see that's what one man can do who follows Christ. What one man can do. Don't idolize your pastor, James Robison, or Coach McCartney. Look at him and say, through the grace of Jesus Christ, I can be like James Robison. You'll never be as eloquent as James, but you can make an impact on your world, man, if you just follow Christ.
Amen.
Thank you, James.
God bless you all, Ken. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming to the stream.